And we are live. It's Echoes of New Eden with no sound effects. Who needs any of the fancy shit? I'm just recording something direct as we're going to talk about the patch notes. Obviously, I would normally do this on a Tuesday, but it's Wednesday. It's another day ending in Y, so we're just going to do the show as it is. Screw it. No script, no idea. We're just going to run through it. Now, obviously, it's a Wednesday, like I said, and it's the day after we've seen the patch notes, which means not only have we had a day, 24 hours or so, to digest what the hell the patch notes are, but we've also had time to see them go live on the server, which was a nice little surprise that everything seems to be working today, except for the massive amounts of time that we've had to download stuff. And I know there's a little bit of a local bug that's glitching for a few people here and there. I haven't noticed that on 4 different emulators or the iPad. Oh yeah, new ships are dying already, of course. That's a given, right? I mean, I think I have the kill mill of the very first one. I'll post it here as we get to start on the patch notes. I mean, this happened like within, I don't know, an hour, maybe 2, something like that, of the server coming up. Here it is. I'll put it in on-air chat right now. That's the first one I know of. If anybody else has... If anybody else has another one, put it in. It's actually not bad. It's actually not bad. I'm kind of pleasantly surprised that the price isn't inflated. So yeah. 33 bill on an Anubis. Well, okay, so that I could see. Right, there we go. Look at that. Oof. I mean, it takes a freaking bar guest to make one, so of course it's going to be inflated. It'd be like, why didn't we get a faction Nestor, an updated like Nestor 2? That would have been probably a little overpowered. Maybe it's coming. I don't know. We'll see. And I haven't had time to play with the tactical modules on any of these things yet either, to kind of understand, you know, what. Well, I've looked at the only one I looked at was actually the one that would go on that ship, not the Anubis, but the Azul or Azazel. Is that how you pronounce that? Azazel? I don't know. Whatever. It doesn't matter. And that's the one that you put on there that makes the 30% reduction in your fire rate, which is kind of huge. Not enough to kill a Visago, apparently. But that's huge. Oh, that's amazing. I love it. That's great. All right, let me pull up the actual notes here and we'll get through it. Let's see. Why don't I see? There we go. Bookmarks. I'm just going to pull up one thing on my phone. We're looking at it over on the main. There we go. And it was great. Oh yeah, that comes right out of I'll be damned. They stole that from EVE Online. Come on now, you know that. They had to have stolen that. Yep. All right, so let's get into the patch notes, which are now live on the server. Obviously, first things first, new content, structure, moon drilling array. Now, there was a lot of speculation about how this moon drilling was going to work. There was some notion in the game anyway ahead of time that this was going to be something that's obviously with an add-on structure, which we now know of, we have it, and that add-on structure is only going to be allowed once per corporation, but that's not true. Turns out you can anchor this in all of your SOV. You can have one in every single sovereignty anchor point. So you can have a lot of these. However, the other flip side of that is it's a percentage chance of it actually activating. So there's nowhere anywhere that shows us what that percentage chance is. So, and it takes 5 days, 10 hours to build one. We put one into build first thing this morning, maybe about an hour, maybe 2 hours after the server went up. Then we realized, oh shit, it's going to take a while. So we got one in build, we got 2 more coming behind it tonight. And then we'll go and see, once the anchor time happens, what this percentage chance is. But it's not a 100% chance that you're going to get a ubiquitous mining belt. It is called a Moon Drilling Array. That's your new add-on structure. After anchoring the structure and acquiring the Moon Drilling Corporation tech, now here's the thing, there's 2 levels of tech. There's a level 5 and a level 6. Your level 5 is just one unlock, and that means once you've done that, now you can actually anchor a moon drilling array and use it. The level 6 one, though, has 3 levels on it, 1, 2, and 3. Each one adds a 10% increase in chance of actually spawning a belt. So for those of you that don't have level 6 unlocked yet, maybe it's a 70% chance to start from, which means once you get your tech up, it's a 100% chance, but I'm willing to bet that's not going to be the case. This is NetEase. It's probably going to be some stupid shit like it's 50% chance, and after you've skilled it up, it's 80% chance, which means some weeks you're going to just not get the lucky chance to, a lucky chance. There you go, right? That just fits in. It all fits. It makes sense now. It all perfectly fits. It's a lucky chance to be able to mine, right? You peasants, you should feel lucky if you get to do one, right? It's an honor. Pay NetEase. Swipe R on the side of your monitor and keep going. Fucking bullshit. Anyway, after anchoring the structure, you can initiate moon drilling to extract resources from moons within the system. The drilling takes 20 hours. Upon success, the drilling array must be activated to gather and form ubiquitous moon asteroid clusters. So the way that works is you hit the button. 20 hours later, you now get the ability to say, okay, spawn it somewhere, and then you go and mine it. So I don't think it's, what'd you say? Heard of special belts separately from regular belts? Yeah, it's a separate thing altogether. Yeah, it's a special belt. So you hit the button. 20 hours later, you now have the ability to spawn it. You hit the button again. So you can kind of time this out. So whenever you hit the button for 20 hours, that's great, whatever. 20 hours is up. Now you've got a window of that week, whatever's left in that week, to say, when are we going to run it, schedule it, hit the button at that point, boom, there it is. Everybody go mine it, you're done. You only get one of these per structure, per sovereignty point per week, right? So if you have 3 different citadels, then you get 3 shots at moon mining every week. Again, it's a percentage-based thing. And I don't know how much material is in one of these belts. I thought someone said, or I read somewhere in one of the patches, that it was about 10 million meters cubed. That's a shit ton. We'll see how that works out. One nice little thing that I discovered today, and I'm glad I waited until today to look at this, was, 2 things actually now I think about it. But the first one is each one of these moon ores and these crystals, there's like 3 or 4 different ores, and there's 3 or 4 different crystals, and they're all like colored like blue, purple, that kind of thing. You refine, you can do 2 things with those. First and foremost, you can just leave them as they are, because you're going to need that raw material to make the new battleships that came out today and the new destroyers that came out today. Or you can refine them and get PI out of those materials. And by PI, I literally mean all the PI in the game, including Cobalt Edge PI. That was a nice little surprise. You can actually farm Cobalt PI now without being in, or Drone Lands PI anyway, without going to Drone Lands. So, rip. That's kind of a, I don't know if I like that or not. Maybe good. I don't know. Maybe bring the pricing of that stuff down a little bit. We'll see. But then, of course, there's a new fuel source. That's the new PI that's there as well, which is your enriched uranium, which is, I forget the math. It's 1/6 the amount of space that a plasmoid takes up, but it's like 5 or 10 times the amount of energy per unit. So it's a huge amount of fuel. So we have a way to actually farm fuel at this point outside of PI generation from a planet. Same thing with the PI, right? So I have a feeling this will very quickly start to bring down certain PI stocks throughout New Eden. I think bring down the pricing anyway on PI. There's going to be a lot of it. That's the breakdown of that. Now, they did say, due to the high value of some ores, be wary of enemy covert ops mining frigates and organize large-scale mining fleets to extraction. Now, I wish I could say that was kind of going to be a cool thing, a fun thing, but again, these are timed and they're spawned and they're just whatever. So it doesn't really, like, I don't think it's going to be very easy to go and snipe someone's belt. Obviously, you'd have to figure out where they have an array anchored. That's not hard to do. You just fly through the areas, scan down. Each corp's going to wind up having one in nullsec, so it shouldn't be too hard to find one. Now you just then have to figure out what their schedule is on when they're actually going to be running it. Now, granted, if it is, this is the only saving grace of this setup, is if it really is 10 million meters cubed, if it really is that much material that's dropped, then it's going to take some corporations hours and hours to mine all of that out. They are not going to be able to mine that out very quickly if they don't have a high number of work rolls, basically, right? It is kind of, well, I don't think it's going to take Alliance fleet mining. It's going to be your largest corps are going to be able to clear these within minutes, literally minutes. And your smaller corps are going to take a while to chew through it. And therefore you will have some belts sitting out that could potentially get sniped. We'll see. We'll see how this plays out. If there's a lot of material there, this could be a lot of fun. So next thing in the patch notes obviously was Corp Tech, where we talked about the moon drilling. Already talked about that. Talked about level 5 and 6. Already added all that stuff in there. How they left that in there. Then I went over the materials already, so that's part of that. Then the reprocessing. There's new skills for the reprocessing. Hold on. Damn, allergies. Anyway, there's new reprocessing for that. It's not cheap. Skill point wise or ISK wise, I want to say it was like 5.2 billion to buy all the skills. But if you already got multiple people in your corp that are 555 on refining things, then I would imagine there's got to be a lot of crossover of that. I know it is in my corp. We've got multiple people. I'm skilling it, and I don't even need it. But I don't know what else to do on that particular alt. So once he gets enough money from whatever, because each one of my tunes is broke, they have to make their own money. Then, yeah, exactly. Alts have 555. One of those is going to be someone in your corp is going to be able to, nullsec wise, is going to be able to skill back over to that pretty easily. It's just a matter of unlocking it. So I don't see anything too crazy there. Now, let's get into the new ships. This is the this is the cool thing. So there's there's a lot going on with ships in this release. Okay, a lot going on with ships, and it's not just that there's new destroyers and new battleships. Okay, so the new destroyers, it took me a while to understand what in the fuck they were thinking. Okay, because they're kind of shit, but they're dictors. And they're not T10 dictors. And if you go back and look at in-game, the stats anyway for like the Nightcrow versus the Corax, or the Errata versus the Catalyst interdictor, or the one that's the Corsair 3 versus Dictor versus I forget what the other one is. Those top end, none of those dictors now have a tech level assigned to them. Tech levels are gone all the way up through cruisers, including covert ops, right? They're just gone. Day one, you can fly that ship. Doesn't mean you have the skills for it. Doesn't mean you have the right fittings for it. But it does mean that basically, I think I look at those new destroyers and I look at those as kind of like an expensive new bro destroyer. That's the only way I can wrap my head around it. Otherwise, it makes no damn sense whatsoever. They can just fly a Dictor 1. They got no skills anyway, which is probably what I would do if I was going to make a brand new alt. That's probably what I would do, is just go for one of those ships in a box because it was free. Now I've got the IP for it, and off I go. Those are in a box, right? Maybe I missed that. Maybe I missed that somewhere where those aren't in a box, but I'm pretty sure those were in a box this morning or today. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, or look in the market real fast. I could be wrong. Yeah, bubble down, yeah. But I mean, that's what I would do, because it's worse. They are literally worse than a Corsair 3 interdictor. Which, if you're a bubbler, and you know anything about bubbling in this game, or you know anything about dictors in this game, and if you don't, I would tell you to go watch my hour-and-a-half long exhaustive breakdown on dictors and hictors. And they are called dictors and hictors. And a dictor is a destroyer interdictor, and a hictor is a heavy interdictor, which is a cruiser. If you use the word lictor inside the Fed or on this podcast or right now in this chat as I'm doing this, you're going to get booted. You're gone. I'm sorry. You can't call it a lictor and call yourself a real man. Exactly, Bunker. Oh God. Anyway, no, it is good content. I really enjoyed doing the No new destroyers on the market. Yeah, I know. They're not there. You can build them. They're all buildable. That's the nice thing about this update. All these things are buildable right now. Like, it's not that hard to go. Well, I take that back. You still need the moon materials, which you can't get until the fucking 5 days after building the day. Whatever. They're buildable as soon as you can get the materials. The materials are all there. Everything's set up for you to build them. So it is what it is. Yeah, all the Logi love to get bubbled. Exactly. So that's still expensive, though, Chained. 1.5 billion. I mean, if that's really what the overall cost... Well, we'll see, right? All these materials could wind up being fairly cheap once things really get going on the mining side of it. Yeah, exactly. More than an Assault 2. That seems really expensive. Why don't you just stick with a Dictor 1? It's totally unlocked from tier levels now. So, yeah, I don't know. The destroyers kind of don't make sense. Stats-wise, they don't make sense. They're not better than a Corsair 3. They're not meant to be, or a level 3 Dictor, which they're clearly not meant to be. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't get them. I guess we'll figure it out as people start to fly them or use them or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. Moving on to the battleships. We have 4 new battleships. Was it 5? Cobra, Azazel, Marzio, Annihilator, Anubis. So 5. We have 5 new battleships. Now, out of those 5, one of these things is not like the other, and that is the Marzio. That Marzio is a blop ship. It's a Macarial blop. It's totally different than all the others. I have no idea why NetEase decided to do this. I don't get it. Why make one of them a blop and not the others? Why not just give them all that ability? But then again, it's a little bit of, I don't know, maybe some of those other ships would be a little overpowered if they were blops as well. And for whatever reason, they decided to handicap the Marzio. They were like, okay, a Macarial is the best battleship in this game. Let's make it a blop, but let's actually, like, crutch it when we do that, right? Let's cut one of its legs off while we do it. So what do I mean by that? First and foremost, it doesn't have the same jump range as the blops do, so it's shorter in range, which means it can't go. You've now limited if you're going to fly them with other blops, you've limited your jump range, and that becomes a really logistically, if you know anything about Sinos, moving around, jumping, trying to coordinate that's a fucking nightmare when everybody has different jump ranges and they're not all the same. Then you have to always play to the lowest common denominator, and that's not the way to run a fleet. So it's kind of weird that they handicapped it with its range, and that's not the only thing they did to handicap it. But the second thing that they did is you cannot fit a regular Sino on it, which you can fit a regular Sino on a regular blop, but you can't fit a regular Sino on the Marzio. Only the blop Sino. Well, supposedly the blop Sino. I haven't tried it. It says that in the notes. I haven't tried it, but I'm assuming that part works. But I have a normal Sino on my Typhoon blop. All the other blops can fit those. That's great. That's fine. But you can't do that on the Marzio. So those are 2 things they did to try to handicap it for no effing reason whatsoever. Just irritating as shit. Obviously, with any of these battleships, it takes a faction battleship to produce, plus these new materials, moon mining materials. And some of these moon mining materials, by the way, you do have to refine them and then use new reactive blueprints that are on the store. They're seeded. They're in the market. They're seeded. There's a whole... If you know where to go and look on the market and find where the blueprints are for the red balls and the golden balls, the ones that you have to use to build citadels for drone lands, and to build the Fiend with, right? Anybody who's familiar with those knows where to go to find those blueprints. There's a whole bunch there that have been there for about a week and a half, 2 weeks, but now you can see what they're used to produce, and it's a whole bunch of new materials that then go along with all of these battleships. So production-wise, it's there technically from day one, even though we can't mine those materials yet. So kind of interesting how they're doing it. Each one of these, again, comes from the faction battleship. So the Cobra comes from a Rattlesnake. The Azazel comes from the Balgorn. The Marzio comes from the Macarial. And the Annihilator comes from the Vindi. And the Anubis comes from the Barghest, which it's really interesting that they even did the Anubis to begin with. I don't understand why they did this with the Anubis and they didn't do it with the Nestor. I mean, that's people dumping them. That's people just dumping them. It makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, they're getting them for... They are stupid cheap. They are absolutely stupid cheap to get in a box. Everybody gets one box you can buy. I want to say it was only 100R. Yeah, 300R in the store. Yeah. So it's stupid cheap to just go and get one of these things and have one to just put in your hanger and station spin, right? Yeah, it's kind of crazy how cheap they are. I'm hoping they don't ever do this again, though, in terms of releasing these things in a box like this, because it's fine with me that they did it today. I've said this before about like the Science C and about the Fiends and the Lancers and all that. It's perfectly fine to release a brand new ship in a box, especially with a lower price like this. I'm actually fine with that because it gives people the opportunity who really want it and can afford it and can spend $300. That's not a lot of money, for most people anyway. Is that you go and get it. It's great. It's fine. Now you get a little taste of what that ship's going to be like. All the stuff is there for you to be able to build one later on if you lose this one and can't IP it for some reason, or for other people to get into who couldn't spend the money out of game anyway, but can spend the money in the game. As long as they don't ever go and put it in a box again. It's when they do it again and again and again that really fucks up the market, and I hate that, and it drives me nuts. And it's probably one of my number one biggest pet peeves about this game is ships in a box the second time. Not the first, but the second time. So anyway, that's my reasoning on it. Let's go through these 4 ships or 5 ships real quick before we move on to the rest of the update. Cobra obviously comes from a rattlesnake. It can equip a bomb, so it can do a bomb launcher. So it's kind of one of its nice little things or nice little additions. It's slow like the rattlesnake. It's pretty tanky all the way around when I look at the stats of it. And it does have a little bit better DPS. Well, not a little bit better. It has decent improvement. It's only a little bit, actually. If you look at the stats, these are all expert stats, by the way. Expert skills that you have to have in order to get these bonuses. So overall, I don't know. I would think the Cobra is a little bit better than the rattlesnake. And when it comes to production of building one, it's definitely more expensive, obviously, because you're building it on top of a rattlesnake. But it doesn't seem too bad. The Azazel is probably the one that's going to be the most overpowered in terms of DPS. And I say that for 2 reasons. Number one, it comes from a Balgorn, which means if you have Focus Crystal, level 30 or higher, if you have less than a level 30 implant for your PvP ship, you're a snowflake, officially. E1 has just labeled you a snowflake. So you add those 2 things together, right? Focus Crystal and a Balgorn, and now you add in the module that you can put on this thing for increasing its fire rate of 30%. That's amazing. So I haven't tried this because I don't have Fulmination anymore, RIP. But I would love to try. I would love to see the stats on one of these with someone who's got that module on there for increasing the fire rate, but then also putting aerators on it. Yeah, you're gonna charge up exactly. You're gonna get up to full steam on that thing super quick. That should be a monster amount of DPS in one of those. That really should be. Someone who's really skilled out to the max. Yeah, someone below 45, exactly. Someone who's skilled out to the max, throws a nanocore on it, which is another great thing that they did on this update. All the nanocores apply, except for maybe a few, but they said that those few will be applied to all of these ships at a later date down the road. They've been doing this better and better each update when they've had new ships anyway, to where the nanocores just all apply. So good job on that part of it, NetEase. So yeah, it's a rapid firing tactical module that the Azazel can put on it. So I think that's great. That's a good module. That's cool. They need to be able to make that kind of module available for like destroyers or something, for smaller ships, not just the battleship. Anyway, Mars-Io was the next one. We talked about that. That's the covert op one where you can Sino around. That's great. That's I don't know. I still think that makes that ship just an absolute nightmare for people. The Annihilator is the Vindicator update. So it's obviously built from the same thing. It gives it reduces the negative effects of the stasis web of fire. So that's good. And it has a repair tactical module. I haven't looked up what that repair tactical module can do. But if the Vindy has any kind of an ability, or the Annihilator anyway, has better ability to hold things down into place than what a Vindicator does, then I imagine we're going to see a shit ton of people using that in their armor fleets. Let's see what this says. Thanks, Darkblade. flight velocity times 80%, so it goes down. You get armor repair bonus. Cap recharge time gets improved. So yeah, that's okay. Shield bonus, yep. All right. So for some reason, the Annihilator can use that, but the other battleships can't. Has anybody confirmed that these tactical modules cannot be fit on any of the other ones and or a regular ship, for instance? Like, could we put... Would it be hilarious if that rapid fire one could be put like on a... Oh, I don't know. Rattlesnake with medium missiles, medium rapids, or something like that. Or a Drake, even a battlecruiser. It'd be hilarious if all of a sudden those things just fit on battleships. But I doubt. Yeah, rapid fire for an ANI. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, I haven't tried it, so I don't know. Mordu's Legion, that's the Anubis one. Obviously upgrading from the Bar Guest. You get some bonuses to target painter technology. I really didn't quite... You get sniper tactical implant. Obviously long range is a thing. That's good, but I don't really know how practical that is. I just look at that ship, I look at its cost, and I think to myself, why in the hell would you do that? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But I get, maybe I'll be proven wrong. Maybe there'll be Anubis fleets going around now, and they'll be hitting things at 1,000-kilometer range, just right inside of your lock range. I don't know. I highly doubt it. I think you'd probably see the Macarials, the mops as we call them, Macarial Blop, the mop. I think you'll see those doing that kind of thing more so than you will anything else. But yeah, speed firing of the missiles would be nice. That would be good. Exactly, Bunker. They're gonna be going around mopping up. Okay, the other things as part of our patch notes, the Voyage Ceremony, we don't care. New arrivals anniversary store. The Dragon Chant core is back with a lucky draw box. Don't care. A mega special deal event. That's kind of okay. Although the funny thing with this is, it says, look, to thank the Capsuleers for their support, the Clone Purchase Gifts event has now been changed to 1,800 days. Reach the specified number of days to claim bountiful gifts. The gifts include Wang-Yue battleship, Wang-Yue ceremony nanocore, skill points, Lazarus units, yada yada yada. But it's not the Yang-Zhong anymore. It's that's a Yang-Zhong ship, but they literally call it a Wang-Yue. Like, show me your Wang. I mean, what in the hell? Why? Yeah, it's so weird. And that battleship, by the way, was supposed to be what the Yang-Zhong carrier was going to look like, but I guess that's the battleship. It's crazy. Yeah, it's funny, Nessival. I don't know. I look at the stats on that battleship, and I just think, no thanks. Oh well. Remove ship tree. Nah. Ship tree's good. What's wrong with the ship tree? What's wrong with the Yang-Zhong ship tree? No battleship there. Oh, and that says it's a dreadnought. That's hilarious. Yeah, that's pretty funny. Well, I mean, it can be a vac, but it can't be a dreadnought. That's weird. Yeah, it's just an icon chained. You can't expect them to understand what those things are, how those things work, what each one of them means. They don't know that. Some balance adjustments. All cruisers and ships with a lower tonnage can now be piloted without any tech level restrictions. This is what we were talking about earlier. So cruisers and below have no tech level restrictions. I want that to sink in for a minute, how impactful that is to this game. First and foremost, you right now can go make an alt. You no longer have to have one of your alts have dual roles of, well, today maybe he's going to fly a Dictor, and tomorrow he needs to get back into his main ship, which is a cruiser or a battle cruiser, right? Like the simple low-level shit that you need, you no longer have to have on an Omega. Well, you have to have Omega for some of this stuff, but you don't for others. So keep that in mind. Even though it's tech leveled, has been removed, doesn't mean you don't have to have Omega for it, right? But you don't have to have any skills either. Like day 1 tune could be flying your dictors now. Day 1 tune could be your extra Sino pilot. You know, you could just go and create that tune, have it for a month. Who cares? Let it sit, let it lapse. Whenever you need it back, it's $5. That's it. $5 a month now. That's all you need. You don't need to go crazy on Duo Omega and all that, getting them ramped up to T8. Interceptors, guys, interceptors are no longer a T8 ship. Day 1, you can have an interceptor. Shit skills. Slow align time. Probably get killed. But, yeah. Easy peasy. This should be good for new bros. I think this is a good thing for new bros. Buff to hauling halts, yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm ignoring whoever the fuck that is in local, in chat. It's just, I don't know. Dude's crazy. There's also a new engine update. Be careful of this, by the way. So there's multiple problems with it. If you're doing this through an iPad or an actual like solid, Android tablet device or something, you're probably going to be okay. In terms of doing the engine update, and it's not going to happen during a regular update. Like if you just did the patch this morning and you got the little thing saying needs to be patched and update whatever, that's fine. But to do the engine update, you have to go back into the App Store and it'll specifically show you an upgrade button from there to literally upgrade the entire app and whatever else is on the back end for its engine. And that's a solely different thing. And when you do that, it gets rid of your local cache. Right, and so once it's done that, your time of install is going to drastically go up. I think this morning on my iPad, it turned out to be like a 2.6 gig update in total after doing the whole thing with the engine update. Now, with that said, there's a huge bonus you get in game on the events tab, and I forget what it is, like 60 gold compilers. There's some skill points, and there's some Lazarus points, and maybe even those little weird compressor box things that glow. I don't know what the hell those are used for. But you get a little bit of all that stuff when you do it. So if you got some time, you get some downtime. On the emulator side, I would set aside like 2 hours. That's going to take a while. Then go for it, do it, and you can get that reward. It's the 5.2.2 engine. And I know I've had some people talk today about it being a little buggy, crashing this, that, or the other. Yeah, the first time you load it up, it's obviously the download, the install is going to be slow. The first time you load it up, it's going to feel a little janky, a little slow. Restart it again after that first time. It's been solid for me all day long on 3 emulators and an iPad. So I think most of the issue there is probably just because it gets rid of your cache, and you have to kind of reload all that stuff back in. So that's why it's slow. So be mindful of that. Be careful of it. If you're trying to get on and do something and play, and you think you can do that real quick before you do, it ain't going to happen. So just be mindful of that. But it's worth noting that does have to be done before like September or whatever. I forget what I'm looking. I got the patch notes in front of me. They should be able to tell me. It's sometime in September, when they say that you have to be, end of September. You have to have the engine updated before the end of September. If you don't do that, then it'll no longer be supported and you won't be able to log in. So just keep that in mind. I would do that at some point over the next week or two just to get it out of the way. They did a bunch of other fixing of issues and things which we don't really need to go over, so there's nothing really crazy there. I mean, that's the gist of it, right? So we got moon mining and all the new materials that come into it, different style of gameplay with that. The new ships, destroyers, which I don't see what the point of those are. And then the new battleships, which are fantastic all the way around. A little bit of something for everybody with those. And then, of course, the leveling out of tech levels, which is something we've asked for a very, very long time in this game. And now that we have it, I'm hearing people complain about it, which I think is hilarious. I'm sorry, but that's just funny shit for someone to complain about the tech levels getting dropped after 4 years of us asking for them to drop the tech levels. Now, if you back up a little bit and remember that while we've been asking for the tech levels to be dropped this whole time, the reason NetEase couldn't do it and wouldn't do it was specifically because of how the game was coded. It's hard coded into the game. There was no way for them to do that. Not easily anyway. Simply because of how the game was coded. So fast forward to now, in the last 6 months, it's not that they didn't want it to work, Nestival. Look at all the stuff that they've been upgrading and doing over the past 6 months, where we've had all these issues again. Like July. The month of July was the biggest train wreck ever because we had constant shit going on with the game not working. And that was things that were fixed a long time ago, like local, this, that, and the other. It's because they've been doing back-end updates to the underlying code, the server architecture, and now including the game engine too. All of those things, all this little bit of headache we've had over the last 3, 4, 5 months have kind of come to a head here and allowed them to get to the point to where now in the game code they can get rid of those tech levels. And they're not going to stop with the cruisers, destroyers, and frigates either. All the way up to battleships. All the way up to battleships. Maybe not Navy issue, this, that, or the other, but it definitely will be higher up into the battleship tier that we'll see these tech levels go away. So this is just the start of all that. That is all I got for the patch notes. Week of August 26th or whatever this is. Good stuff. We'll have a show coming up this weekend, obviously. Just as always, it won't be as good as last weekend's show with the massive debate that we had, or even the follow-up that we did afterwards, but all that's there for you to go back and listen to. We are planning on doing some more of those kind of roundtables, debates, if you will, and they will not include DDR Primus, whoever the fuck that guy is. I don't know who you are, but you're not coming on. Period. Or if you are, you can come on and talk to Rambo, because I'm not doing it. Anyway, so with that said, that's all I got. Thanks for coming, guys. Appreciate it. Good job. Thanks for coming. Thanks for stopping in. 23 of us on the drop of a dime. That's awesome. I appreciate it. So that's it, and we will see you this Sunday.